What's going on, everybody? In today's video, I'm going to show you how I build and set up my composite oven. So if you saw the new shop intro video, I had a lot of people ask about how I do my oven. The composites oven is pretty much the main bit of almost any composite shop. Now if you're doing this just as a hobby, you don't really need an oven. Stuff can room temp cure, but a composites oven speeds up the process and it gives you a little bit better characteristics of your epoxy at that elevated cure rate. So questions about the composite oven probably came in more than just about anything else. So literally it's just a box that I'm gonna put heaters in and everything. We'll get into all of that, but right now I just wanted to show you where I'm at. In the first video, this back wall was just 2x6s. You can see I insulated it. I didn't finish putting the wall all the way up. I just wanted to get the oven started. So that's insulated with R19. This little section of wall is insulated up to this stud with R19. The rest of it will get done eventually. That's just regular shop related stuff. I'm going to have some windows put in just because you can see, other than the garage door, there's just nothing in here. So yeah, this oven, it needs to be big enough for me to do my wings, hoods, stuff like that. So this oven is, I think it's 90 inches tall, 40 inches from the back wall to what will be the front wall here. And width is 104, so it's pretty wide, but this will be plenty big enough for me to do all of my parts. And then 2 heaters in the bottom should be good, and we'll get into all the electrical. So you can see the panel is right there. We'll just run wires up, over, drop them down here to all of our controls and everything. Alright, so that brings me to my next point, the electrical setup. If you're not comfortable running electric, this is just simple 20 amp circuits. You know, plug in a circuit breaker, run a 12 gauge line, you know, that's about it. I've watched a ton of videos specifically about wiring electrical circuits to panels and everything. So, you know, just search, you know, you're watching this on YouTube, so just search for that if you want to get into the nitty-gritty details of running your own electrical lines. I'm not going to do that, but again, yeah, just kind of, you know, if you're not comfortable doing it, sub it out to an electrician. Alright, so picking up where we left off, like I said, this wall has studs, that wall has studs. The top here, you can kind of see the screws where I put them in, but there's just 2x6 studs, so that's R19, R19, R19. I did a 2x4 on this side, so I got R13, but I can always put like a piece of foam on the inside of the oven to give me a little extra R value. Same thing with the doors, which are going to swing out here. So the opening is wider than 8 feet, but the doors are just going to be, you know, a piece of plywood, well, you know, framed out a door, insulated door, 4 feet wide on this side, 4 feet on this side. So we're going to build a little stubby wall right here, just so 1 sheet of plywood would be each door. So I'm going to get to work kind of moving this along, and I'll just kind of fill you in and pick you up, you know, after I spend a few more hours doing stuff on this. Alright, so I've been working on this for a few more hours. You can see I got the doors done. I don't quite have like the latch set up or handles, and then if you notice I have a gap still, but this is going to be, what is it, left side will open first. So on the inside edge of this door, you put a little lip and a seal, and that kind of is how you can kind of seal that. So I need to put seals and everything around it, but you can see, let's open up this side, ladder's in the way on that side. You know, opens up all the way. Other side is the same, so that way I have essentially almost an 8-foot opening to get like large molds and everything in. So, you know, there, that takes care of the doors. Still need to finish insulating them, obviously. So run insulation on there. This little bit right here, I need to put an outlet down here, so that's why I didn't do this one yet. Which brings me to the wiring. Now, looks like a little bit of a mess right now. What I did on my old oven, I kept the wires all plugged in, and just kind of pulled everything like off the wall. So this wire out is the heat controlled off of this. I actually forget what that thing is called. I'll probably do like a little thing right down here once I look it up when I get inside. So, but anyway, so that one's going to come out, go across the top, drop down to an outlet, which is going to control a heater on this side of the oven. I'm going to have another one next to it, which is going to go down and through, and then just be the heater on this side of the oven. So here's the other one, kind of the same deal. It looks like a mess of wires, whole bunch more wires and everything. So yeah, everything looks like a kind of a mess right now, but like I said, taking it off of the old oven at my old shop, I kind of just like put it against the wall, you know, rerun a few wires, but it really speeds up the process. So yeah, so that's about where I'm at with the oven right now. Yeah, so I'll check in a little bit to kind of fill you in with what I do over the next few hours or so. Alright, so quick update time. I'm sort of close to finishing up the wiring. You can see, so the panel's off, these yellow wires right here. You can see I ran them right there up all the way down to the oven. I was borderline thinking of running a like a 60 amp sub panel, but it's not too far of a run, so just ran them down, waiting for the 2-pole breakers to show up so I can kind of finish up this end of it. But I effectively just wired everything backwards. So the oven, so you can see that box right there, may look like a mess right now, but I know what everything is. So 2 are for the heaters, and then the third wire is for the vacuum pumps, which will kind of sit right up here, and then I'll run them like outside. In the old shop, they would have effectively been like to the right of my oven, but you know, it's all pretty much the same thing. So yeah, so that's the 2 loose wires. The ones that are hooked up come down into this box here. This relay right here is a 2-circuit 20 amp relay. So one comes in, tees off of it to power this, but effectively just kind of passes through. One circuit goes down here, the other one comes out, up, and over, and down this wall. So there's one heater outlet, there's the other heater outlet, and then this one up here is for our fans. So this is such a large like volume. When the heat is going, you don't want the heat kind of just like going up to the top of the oven. So we're going to put a fan up in that corner just to kind of, you know, circulate the air so you don't get any like hot spots or cool spots. I hope that all kind of makes sense. Let's see. Yeah, so back to this. This is just a spring wound timer. So, you know, I can just set it for however long I need. This is a 12-hour one, but never really set it more than maybe 3 hours or so. And then this is the fan circuit. So set that to go for, I don't know, maybe an hour longer than the heat. So that way, once the heat kicks off and the part cures, the fan will still kind of just, you know, circulate that heat a little bit. So that's really about it. I think the wiring is maybe the trickiest part of building an oven. Oh, so I don't think I touched on this, but this little temperature controller right here, this gray wire that pokes in, is this little, where is it? This little sensor right here. I don't think we need the flashlight, but this is what reads the temperature. And then continuing with the temperature sensor, how this all just kind of works, this just sends a signal once it gets to the temperature I need. And then this one right here closes this relay and makes the circuit go on and off depending on if it's calling for heat or not. So yeah, so that's kind of where we're at with the electrical work. You can see I still got to finish up insulation. Now that I got this wired and the backside of this little stubby wall wired, I can actually get pretty close to wrapping this up. Alright, so we're getting ready to cut this sheet of plywood to fit this wall right here. And something I like to do in all my videos is kind of maybe highlight like a product or a part or something. So what we're going to use is a crosscut slide, and it's probably one of the best things I've ever bought if you're like building out like a shop, or actually almost like anything. Lets you cut very straight edges down full sheets of plywood very easily. So I'm going to show you that now. So if you're not a woodworker or you don't have a table saw to slide a whole sheet through, this thing right here, it's made by Craig. Where is it? This Rip Cut. I'll find this on Amazon and put a link below so you can see it. But this thing's awesome for doing really straight square cuts, building shelves, building an oven, building a workbench, building whatever. So pretty simple to set up. You just kind of, once this little thing is calibrated with the blade, you can see the little red line right there. You know, however much you need to rip something down, that guide just rides along the side of it and you're pretty much good to go. So I already got my measurements and we're going to go ahead and cut this down. Alright, so there you go. Nice, perfect, straight cut. Alright, so where we're at now, we got the floor in. You can see I put insulation, 1.5" thick insulation underneath of the floor. My oven's so big I'm going to be walking on it, so you know I kind of got to put a floor on it. That little piece is just because the oven's wider than 8 feet. This piece is on, outlets are cut in, doors are done. I mentioned this earlier, so you can see this little lip I put on this door, because the left door is going to close first, and by putting that little lip back there, it gives you an area to run a seal, so when that door closes, you know, you don't get you know, hot air leaking through there. So let's see, I think that's about it for right now. A few little odds and ends still to go, like I just mentioned, putting in the seals, some handles on the doors, the little latch, and that's really about it. I'm getting really close to finishing this thing up. Alright, so the latch is set up. I'm not super happy about this, but it works. I might change this in the future, but you can see pretty easily, you just turn this out, pull it down, there you go, you're in. And then because there's a little bit of tension in it, there you go. So like the door kind of has to be squeezed in. It'd be nice maybe if there's some sort of like, as it turned, it like hooked and pulled or something, but you know, this is good enough for now. It'll get me going, and something very similar to this is what I had in my last oven. So you know, it works. You can pick those up at you know, Lowe's or Home Depot or some little home improvement store. Alright, so it's the next day. I forget exactly where I left off, but these finally showed up. And like I was telling you in an earlier scene, you know, the box is live right now, so I gotta be a little careful, but these 2-pole breakers will give me a little bit more room in this box because I'm running out. You gotta make sure your box is able to be used with these 2 poles. But yeah, now that these are here, and if you remember earlier, these 12-2, the yellow wires coming down, go all the way to the oven. So it's only a matter of minutes now to hook these up, get them wired up. Yeah, once I hook them up, we'll have power to the oven. Alright guys, so here we are with my 2 poles up here. I needed 3 circuits. This is just a piece of foam. This box is live right now, so not conductive. But yeah, going up and out. We're getting a little bit crowded, but if you look at this 30 2-pole, this 50, and this 30, they're for these RV outlets that literally just like aren't needed, so they can actually like come off, and I can actually, you know, gain some space, run and power to, you know, something else. But anyway, so they're hooked up. We're going back. One of those circuits is for the vacuum pumps, which will come out of this junction box, and the pumps will sit about here. But if we're all good, when I turn this switch, we should get power. This one is for the fans, which is right there, not hooked up yet. It's going to tee off of the circuit that runs the vacuum pumps. But if we're all set, this one, one of these little, there you go. So we got power, good there, and there we go, good there. So there we go. Oven is wired. What else? This thing's pretty much super close to being finished. I can't remember, I think I showed you this. The latch is good and done. And then I started to seal it. I kind of just did this for demonstration purposes. The tape, or the backing paper is still on it. So as this door closes, it just comes and smushes against this, seals the door. So let's see. Oh, and then I already sealed the bottom. So as this closes, you know, you can see it seals up that gap along the bottom. Got to do around and around, and then seal up this jam right here. One other thing I want to mention is, they're in here. I put them aside on purpose. Are these things? These extinguisher fireballs, or auto fire off. I'll put a link, an Amazon link to these in the video description below. But basically what these are, so I put these up on each side of the oven. So we're gonna have a heater on this side and on this side. So they come with a little bracket and you put them up on the wall. In case there is ever a fire, these things, they obviously don't go off from the temperature inside my oven, but when they see fire, they basically explode like a powder in the entire oven. So it's just kind of like a little bit of like a safety thing, since we are dealing with heat. Not a lot of heat, but you never know if one of those little heaters, even though they have their own overrun and tip over protections. I'll show you the heaters I use, I guess, because a lot of people are probably going to ask about that. It's literally just like the little tiny room heaters you get from Home Depot, Lowe's, just cranked all the way up. Is about enough to get up to that 130 degrees. So, you know, the heater situation is pretty simple. I think a lot of people overthink the heater thing, like you need something to pump out a ton of heat. You really don't. Because the epoxy, it doesn't care how it sees heat, it just sees temperature. Way back when I was starting, I actually used to use like a heat blanket and just lay it on top of the mold because I didn't have an actual oven. So yeah, any way you can kind of get heat into it. Now if you need, you know, higher temperatures, you're using like a pre-preg or something, they usually need temperatures way above what this setup would do. We only use infusions or vacuum bagging, and the epoxy will see its full properties at that 130, 140 degrees. So that's why we can get away doing it this way. The other thing I want to do, you can see how there's a little bit of a gap right here. This piece of plywood was like 1/4 inch shorter than what I really would have liked, but I can't remember if I mentioned it, but get some caulk or some seam sealer or something, because there's, behind here is a 2x4 against this wall, which isn't perfectly sealed to this wall. So you kind of just want to create like a little bit of an air block around any gap you can. Do these ones, do the back corners, do along the floor, everything will kind of help out. You know, that'll definitely help that air block of just that heat getting through those little tiny cracks. Alright, so here it is. Pretty much finished up. I'll say it's about like 95% done. You can see we got the vacuum pumps hooked up there. All the wiring is done. It's cleaned up, aside from like a little bit right there. I'll get to that later. But so like I was mentioning earlier, these ones, and you can hear the pump kick on. You got a vacuum gauge, which it must have a line open inside or something. But you can see you just like poke right through the side of the wall there. I did end up redoing the latch setup, and I actually mentioned it earlier in the video, and it's very similar to like what you see on like the back of like a 18-wheeler, you know, like a truck or something. So you just lift up, and you can see how when it rotates, it'll like grab and squeeze the door in. And this setup's pretty nice because it does the top and the bottom, so you get a good squeeze around that seal. When I ended up putting the seals in around the door, it got like a little bit too tight to where that original latch setup just kind of wasn't really working for what I wanted. So you can see I put a light in here as well. We got our brackets, we have our fans, we have our fireballs. Ironic name for them since they put out fire. But you can see we put multiple drop downs, so that way, you know, I never really know where I'm gonna be. Let's open up this door. I never really know where I'm gonna have like parts, because sometimes I'll have like multiple parts or whatever. So, you know, I just put multiple drop downs, magnets, mentioned it before, our heaters, you know, so yeah, so this thing is done, ready to kind of start running parts through it. I think the only little thing I'm gonna have to do, you can see how the door hits the curtain up here, and it just naturally swings closed. So I'll just put like a magnet up there or something, so when I open this all the way, it just kind of, you know, stays open. But, you know, at this point, it's those little tiny fine details, so, you know, you can take it from here to kind of do whatever you need to for yours. So yeah, so I think that's where I'm gonna wrap this one up. You know, there's a lot of, you know, I guess skill sets that go into this. The big one is electrical. You got some kind of like woodwork and construction almost, insulation, all that stuff. I'm kind of lucky because growing up, my dad was always doing projects around the house, and I would always kind of like watch him and help him. So, you know, tackling a project like this and setting up the rest of the shop and everything, you know, I kind of had a little bit of a head start doing stuff like this. So, you know, it isn't anything too bad. You should be able to tackle it, but like I mentioned earlier, sub out anything you aren't comfortable with, and that's where we're going to wrap this one up. So any questions, please put them in the comments below. Also hit that like button, really helps us out, and consider subscribing. As always guys, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next one.